The upside of using that 777, being this is stainless steel, it doesn't bother me to hit it with some water, so I did. And didn't get everything, but you see she's pretty clean. Inside the chambers, pretty much gone. It just rinsed out. You know, it's no, didn't put a patch to it. It's just gone. And of course, this doesn't rust right away. It dries before it rusts. But hoping you can see this. I think maybe you can. Stainless steel will rust. And that's from black powder. I didn't get it clean enough when I did use it. I never thought I used black powder in this one, but I did. I think the last time I had it out I used real black powder, with the exception of the one I just did the video on. And there was a little bit of rust on this when I bought it. I took it apart, the handles off, the grips off, just to have a peek to see how Ruger did things, and I noticed that this had a little rust on it. So they will rust, especially around the just where it's cast there. But just to show you, stainless steel is not immune to some nasties happening to it. Finally getting around to cleaning up this revolver, as I mentioned earlier. And it's quite different than what you're going to find with Colts and Remingtons, how they're put together. It's like you got a plunger here for returning your trigger that fits in there. I just finished cleaning and lubing that all up. So I got a few little rusties on this one, and I thought it was black powder I fired last. It wasn't. It was actually it was Pyrodex, which I find is even more corrosive than black powder. It's pretty evil stuff. But I'm giving the I got going over with the Wonder Lube Plus, getting all down inside everything with the Q-tips and that. And it's amazing how much more black shit you get when you lube your revolver up that way. Especially these Rugers, they got more nooks and crannies than you know what to do with. Yeah. So, as you can see, I stripped this one right down. And she's got a get her right up there where the hand goes. Good stuff. Now what would a generic brand Q-tips? They got these plastic handles. I was using the genuine Q-tip, but the cotton's wrapped really hard and tight on these. I find actually these cheaper ones work a lot better. They don't deposit as much lint as the other ones do. Not quite as fluffy. That's why the wife didn't like them. Good for cleaning up and stuff. Clean out the slot for the hammer there. I already gave it a once over. I'm just going over it again, basically to give it a coating and lube it up. You always manage to find a little more. cover everything with this. And it won't rust once that's on there. Get right in there. And I used hot water, warm water, not even hot water, just to see how well the 777 would clean out of this barrel. And I'll tell you, it just rinsed straight out of there. And I took a plastic brush that you get from the gun shops, and I just cleaned out in around the barrel there and the frame. And that's not stainless, and you're going to get water trapped in there. They just give one hell of a good blasting out with this stuff here, and that'll push down any water that was in around the rear sight. Did the same with the front sight. Give it a good hoot, because this is not stainless, and you don't want water trapped in there anyway. And I couldn't get that any closer, could I? And that barricade worked. I find it works really good. Yeah. Even on stuff that's already started to rust a bit, I've given it a blast of that, and it stops it in its tracks. Works pretty damn good. So yeah, as soon as that Q-tip gets dirty, gone. Get a fresh one. And if I get into a spot that I clean and it's still giving me black, I'll go in there again, second time, and when it comes out clean, then I'm done with it. Up and around where all the moving parts are, I don't go over it. And again, to get the excess off, I just leave it in there, let it lube things up. And that's pretty much it for this thing. She's good and clean. I'll even get in around these screws, where the screws go in. And again, you always find a little bit more. There's one slimy frame and barrel. This was actually had a fair amount of rust on it. And what I did, I remember, I start thinking back, I put the revolver away, and I expected to shoot it again, and I didn't. Because normally I tear them right down at the end of the season anyway and give them a good clean. And apparently I forgot. So this was, I don't know if you can see the pits on it or not, but it's not pitted bad, but it's more of a stainless. But it had a bit of rust on it, so it wouldn't rub out any other way. So I used some 400 paper and a little bit of oil, and I cleaned it right off. Don't go hard at it. You don't want to be taking off. All I want to do is polish off the rust. And this is 400 that I've used before, so it's pretty smooth anyway. And she cleaned up really well. A lot of this stuff resembles the Colts and Remingtons pretty close. The hammer goes in pretty much the same way. These things come with really good instructions anyway. So I notice they got the Loctite snot in the threads. Of course, after you clean it a couple of times, that stuff ain't gonna work so good for you. But on these smaller screws, you always put a little drop of blue Loctite on them. As long as you don't get too much oil in the holes. Actually, to get the Loctite to work, you don't want any oil in the holes. I got too much shite on my bench, which is why I'm cleaning these guns, so I get the shite off my bench. As usual, you want to get the screwdriver that's going to fit perfectly in those screws. That way you can avoid your Bubba screws that we all love so much. Just give her a little tweak. Hand is in there, that's good. That tiny little spring and plunger. That instead of a little flat spring that's on the Colts and Remingtons, it's got that spring-loaded little plunger that goes on the back here. That operates the hand. So you get lots of Wiener slider on that. One neat thing about stainless steel, there's no wear on anything. But, I haven't fired this gun a tremendous amount, but you know, I fired it enough so there should be a little bit of wear, like if it was a regular steel. It should be showing, but that stuff's pretty hard. So I'll take that out for now so it doesn't fall out while I'm putting the trigger spring in. First time I take that out, might actually look like it's bent, but the angle is to match the angle of the hole that's in the frame here. Okay, all I did here is put the catch in and cylinder lock, whatever you want to call it, and it's got this spring, like I said, it's got that little angle that goes up inside the hole, which is drilled on an angle here. So I just put everything in like that first without the tension on it, because with the tension on it, it's going to be way too much fun trying to get that thing in there. I'll just take a small little screwdriver. And it goes right in. These are quite easy to work on, these guns. There you go. Yeah, so you just push that little spring into the hole, slick as a snot in a rooster's beak. Block of wood there too. just kick the camera. That way you're not resting the rear sight. I zoomed in good there, didn't I? You're not resting the rear sight on your bench. Don't want to do that. Throw it off. After all your hard work of putting it on. So out of there, should hold up nice. Next, put the old trigger in. A little bit of Gorilla Snot on the pin there. What's nice about this is you don't have to fight with springs and these Rugers like you do with the other ones. You get those old style springs you gotta fight with while you're putting this stuff in. This you don't. You get some pretty neat ideas when it comes to that stuff. And the spring on this just pushes on the back from the trigger guard. I showed you earlier. Also, before you put that on, before you put the back strap and trigger guard back on, make sure you put that little plunger and spring in for the hand, like so. Grab a beaner slider. The only time you gotta mess around with the spring is putting that in, and as you can see, that's not hard. It just goes in. Make sure you're not going to bend that spring and put them on a cockeyed angle or anything. Sure I'm putting the right screws in first. And that's just very gently in place, just to hold the assembly from flopping around on me. Yeah, I'll pick up that screw I dropped on the floor, put the rest of them in. So I got the two in the back that holds that spring in. Like I said, make sure that spring is nice and even going in, it doesn't get crushed in there. And this one was pretty easy. As soon as you get to the back of the trigger while you're sliding this back strap on, you can see I didn't tighten anything. It just follows the trigger as you put it together. I'll stick this one in the front of the trigger guard here. And again, I'm not tightening any of these. I'll reach it till it stops and I back it off about a quarter of a turn. Keeps everything loose, so when you put the next screws in, they're not going cockeyed or cross-threaded or anything. And stripping threads on one of these would not be much fun. So I don't tighten any of them until I got them all pretty much in place. There. Just fingertip tight, make sure everything's lined up. Running your fingers along the edges will tell you, because these things are pretty flush when they, I mean, everything's, it's Ruger, I mean everything is just beautifully fit. Again, you don't want to over tighten those screws. If you do, strip them, you've caused yourself a lot of grief. Of course, there's no spring in the thing yet. Okay, you want to get the spring in this. You pull the hammer back, take the spring, you get the curve kind of sort of follows the contour of the back strap. Get them in there. Find doing it this way is a lot easier than trying to wedge it in the slot that's in the back of the hammer. And kind of see that it's right here. It's quite easy to lube if you forget to lube it. And once you got them sitting in place like that, as you can see, I got this pin that's through the hole of that bar. You just pull them back, hammer all the way back, compresses the spring, out comes the wire you used to hold it, and there you have it. One spring, in and out, nice and easy. Another thing I love about these Rugers. Okay, next you're going to want to put your lock in for the. There we go. I always push that little ball in. Slides right back where he belongs right now. Because if you got the thing assembled, you're trying to push that through, he puts up a fight. I just rotate him a bit here, make sure he's good. Now, for the fun part, put him in like that, catches in here. You can get this started in fact, you can get the whole cylinder and everything started. Roll him a bit so he goes in. Then you can put your ram in, and then get him in a slot now, and then just bring the rest home. Get your fancy high-tech Ruger screwdriver. Now that shaft is locked in there. Done. Only a Ruger or a Rogers and Spencer seems to roll like that. All that's left is the grips. And I got slimy mitts, I'll tell you. Nipple grease everywhere. Quick wipe. Hate to have this sucker land on the floor. These blue towels are great. Wipe her down. Doesn't leave a bunch of lint and shit everything everywhere. So there you have it. One clean, shiny Ruger Old Army. Yep. Gotta love it. That gun is now ready to be put away for the winter.